breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you today and every Monday and every Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN and available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is AJ Fredrickson. Does a great job putting our show together, all of our clips and highlights, interviews. AJ, just another typical Viking win. Come from behind, outscore the opponent in the fourth quarter, win the turnover battle. And it was not an easy game. Vikings had to struggle at times, but come up with a big win to move to 12-3.
It's funny because every week it seems like you keep saying it's just
same
another
thing.
week. Yeah. But at this point, it is like it is that exact same thing. It's not like at what point do these dramatic wins just I'm numb to it. You know, I don't think I ever will, but another big win. It comes down to the wire yet again, keeping me on the edge of my seat for the entire four quarters. I mean, it was a fun weekend. It was a fun weekend mixed with the holiday and everything else. A Vikings win in that fashion and some record-breaking performances again for the season. It caps it off. So another big win. I'm excited to see if this team can keep it up here with this border battle coming up next week.
Yeah, exactly. Big game coming up on Sunday in Green Bay and Lambeau. Will be a 3:25 start, and it's gotten a lot more important, especially from the Packers standpoint, but even still for the Vikings. The Packers getting that win in Miami yesterday with Tua Tagovailoa unraveling, shall we say, in the second half and throwing 3 interceptions in the game. Dolphins turn it over 4 times. Green Bay gets a huge win, 30-24, keeps their season alive, which was really not good news for the Vikings because they were hoping Miami would knock Green Bay out and perhaps the Packers would play Jordan Love on Sunday, but not to be. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers are very much alive. In fact, they've won 15 straight games in December. So the border battle continues. The Vikings, of course, won the first meeting this year 23-7 in the season opener at US Bank Stadium. That was an exciting day for the Purple. And came out of the gate fast and really haven't slowed down much other than a couple of hiccups en route. But we'll just say in terms of the Giant game, kind of steal a line from the holiday season, another Christmas miracle, more or less. When you think about what happened, that the defense up and down but still forced 2 turnovers and did some decent job pressuring Daniel Jones, but he still threw for over 300 yards, and the Giants have 445 yards of offense. And then to have Greg Joseph boot a franchise record 61-yard field goal to win the game. As you mentioned, record-setting performances by T.J. Hockenson, 13 catches, a record for a Viking tight end. Justin Jefferson sets a couple records in this game as he continues to lead the NFL in receiving yards and catches. He broke Chris Carter's single-season record of 122 catches. He broke Randy Moss's single-season yardage mark, and now Justin sits at 1,756 yards. As I said, leading the league. So a lot of exciting times. Kirk Cousins making the big plays down the stretch, as he has done all year. A big win for the Vikings with San Francisco breathing down their neck, their 8th straight win for the 49ers. It's a scary team. I think that's perhaps going into the playoffs. To me, that may be the NFC favorite. And it looks like the way things are stacking up, the Vikings, if they can win their first-round matchup against who knows who it's going to be. It could be Washington. If Washington wins their last 2, which are very winnable games, then it will be the Commanders, and they host Cleveland, and then Dallas in the last week. Dallas should have the number 5 seed wrapped up, which they already do, but probably will be out of the running for the NFC East title, so they'll be locked in. They may rest a lot of people. Washington, a good chance to win their last 2 games and get in. The Giants just need one more win. That should happen this week when they face Cleveland or Indianapolis this week. So I think it's still a stretch for the Packers to get in, But the problem is that they believe that they've
Yeah.
got a chance. And so that makes it more difficult this week. But the Vikings, as we said, finding a way to win, making big plays when they needed to in this game against the Giants. And let's go to our highlights, courtesy of Fox, Adam Amin, and Mark Schlereth. And let's start out early in the ball game. The Vikings get a sweet play-action touchdown pass to T.J. Hockenson.
From the 12, fake to Cook. Cousins, end zone, wide open. Hockenson taps the toes. It's a touchdown.
I'm still trying to figure out, AJ, where the end zone ended there because of the white border. And TJ said, yeah, that was a little bit of a concern as he was trying to get his feet down, but he did, and it was all well and good. So the Vikings get off to the early lead and extended it to 10-7 at the half. But before that point in time, they're up 7-0, and Brian Asamoah, interesting guy, third-round draft pick out of Oklahoma, makes a big play, first play of the second quarter, as the Vikings are holding on to this 7-0 lead, and he has a strip force fumble and fumble return. He's a guy really interesting, I think, going to get more snaps down the stretch here. He has great speed, and he can spell Kendricks, who's been a little banged up, and Hicks. Brian Asamoah with a big forced fumble and fumble recovery return.
Bellinger, the tight end, lines up as a fullback. It's a fake to Barkley. Jones loads up, and he's got Bellinger, who lost the football, and it's scooped up by Minnesota. Brian Asamoah came out with it as Bellinger coughed it up.
And that set up a field goal by Greg Joseph, put the Vikings up 10-0 at that point. Giants come back. Daniel Jones, who I thought had a really good game in this particular game, he's a guy, he's going to be a free agent. The Giants had not exercised his fifth-year option. I think they're going to franchise him or make sure he doesn't get out the door. He was impressive. Now, the Vikings secondary was a little shaky in this game. Shandon Sullivan had his issues. Even Patrick Peterson had a few issues. He had a nice interception later, but he also gave up a touchdown, gave up a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. Patrick had some problems. Also, Duke Shelley was picked on a lot. So the Vikings secondary, when they don't get the pass rush, which they did at times in this game, and Daniil Hunter had a big game with 2 sacks, 7 tackles, played really well. But as we look ahead to the playoffs, AJ, that pass rush is going to be so critical. Mm-hmm. Hunter and Zadarius Smith have got to have big games when it comes to playoff time. So as we kind of move forward into the second half, and things got a little more eventful as we went along.
That's one way to put it.
Right. And here was a big play in the third quarter. Kirk Cousins, kind of fortunate in this game. He threw 2 interceptions that were nullified, one by penalty. And on this particular play, Adam Thielen makes a sneaky good play to dislodge the ball slightly that had to be overturned on review.
Deep drop. Looking downfield. Odie put it into a bad spot looking for Thielen, and it's the rookie with his first career interception. Cordell Flott, the third-round pick out of LSU.
After review, it was determined that the ball hit the ground without the receiver maintaining control. Therefore, it is an incomplete pass.
So it should be 2nd and 10 from the 45 for the Vikings, and right there is the point of contact.
So just enough.
Nice editing job, AJ, because we didn't have to wait for the whole replay review. So that was very well done by you. Thank you. Now, before we get into our later highlights, let's talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. It's time to visit your Select Minnesota GMC dealers and hit the turf in a truck that's designed to tackle the toughest proving grounds. That's the GMC Sierra SLE. It's bold, precise, and capable. Sierra comes standard with a 2.7-liter turbo high-output engine, delivering 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. Or call a winning play with an available 3.0-liter Duramax turbo diesel engine with a 10-speed automatic transmission. And when it comes to comfort and refinement, climb in to discover the convenience of the standard 13.4-inch diagonal center touchscreen. And don't forget, Sierra is truly the MVP with the world's first available 6-function multi-pro tailgate. It's the holidays and a great time to step up to professional-grade season. Good luck in the playoffs to the Vikings. Test drive a new GMC Sierra SLE today. The year's best selection is available now at your select Minnesota GMC dealers or online at TwinCitiesBuickGMC.com. So, as we head later in the game into the fourth quarter, TJ Hockenson, as we mentioned before, had a fantastic day. 13 catches, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. And this particular catch, his play of the game, and a wonderful catch, leaping grab in the end zone through double coverage over 2 defenders. TJ Hockenson to put the Vikings in the lead 17-13 after they'd fallen behind 13-10.
Playing this kind of defense tight here in the red zone.
Trying to do it again. Here comes a blitz by the Giants. Cousins to the end zone for Hockenson. What a catch! Vikings lead on an incredible grab by the Pro Bowler.
And what a catch. I mean, that one is I was kind of waiting for him to have this type of a game, and I'm not expecting him to do this on a weekly basis, but we've seen that kind of flash of how he can be used and how he can be that kind of game breaker at times, but this was 4 full quarters of TJ Hockenson is just better than the opponent.
Yeah, exactly. 16 targets for TJ, which was a season high with his 13 catches, and Jefferson with 16 targets also. So they were definitely the focal point. And as was mentioned, the Giants blitzes, a lot of blitzing in this game. The Giants, probably the biggest blitzing team in the league, almost half of the defensive snaps. And the Vikings caught them several times, and a few times it didn't pan out. Kirk Cousins took a lot of hits in this game.
Yeah. He's so tough, Jeff.
He really is. It's very underrated.
Yeah, I feel like that gets overlooked. And as soon as you have a game like this, I think that makes the rounds in the news cycle. But he just gets beat up, but he always picks himself back up, and it's like he just brushes it off. He's the unmovable man or something like that. He's unbreakable. He's unbreakable.
Well, we'll knock on wood when we say that, but he certainly has great durability, and that's one thing that Bud Grant, the Hall of Fame coach for the Vikings, taught me very early on, that a player cannot achieve greatness without durability. Kirk Cousins has that durability and has done a great job in that regard. I think also, as I look back on this game, AJ, I think one of the things that bothered me was I thought that Kevin O'Connell got a little too pass happy in this game, and there were several instances. There was a 3rd and 1 call in the second quarter where he tried to throw a kind of intermediate deep ball to Jefferson instead of just picking up the first down with a short pass or with a run. Dalvin Cook only 14 carries in this game. Now, I like that Dalvin maybe saved a little bit for the playoffs, but then throw Madison in there and run it a little bit more, because then they had that 4th and 2 play later in the game where Jefferson and Thielen got too close together. Again, 4th and 2, maybe you can run a draw or something, as the Giants did with Saquon Barkley to tie the game or before the 2-point conversion. So I would ask, where was the running game? I know Garrett Bradbury was out, the Vikings center. They're hoping he may be able to get back this week, which would be a good thing. Austin Schlottmann had some decent moments. He actually played pretty well down the stretch when they needed to hold Dexter Lawrence out of there, and he's a beast at defensive tackle. Gave the Vikings a lot of trouble inside between Schlottmann and Ezra Cleveland. But again, I think getting Bradbury back healthy with that back injury is going to be really important. He has had a very good season. But I would again say, when you're playing a team that's number 29 against the rush, as the Giants were coming into this game, and to only run it 19 times while you're throwing it 48 times and having your Pro Bowl quarterback take 4 sacks and 11 quarterback hits, I don't think that's a great formula against a team like the Giants. And so we'll see what happens down the stretch now. They go into Lambeau in a cold weather game and then into Chicago. It may be a little more difficult to throw it that much, although the long-range forecast is good. It's mid-30s,
yes,
which is very good news for the Vikings especially. And in fact, Kevin O'Connell talked this week about they're going to be practicing outside a little bit, which is a good idea. Get those fields cleared off of the snow and get outside. But so as we kind of progressed into the game, and Vikings up 17-13, getting down the stretch, a big play in the fourth quarter. Special teams, we talked about Greg Joseph with his career-long Viking record 61-yard field goal to win it. We're going to get to that in a second. But before that, another big special teams play by Josh Metellus, very underrated player on the special teams.
It's blocked. Picked up by the Giants, by Julian Love, but Minnesota with a block. It's Josh Metellus, their special teams ace, coming up with the biggest special teams play of the day.
And that wasn't even close. That wasn't even close to getting off cleanly. He was in the grill of the punter.
Yeah, it's just too bad he didn't knock it forward so they could have run it back for the touchdown. But it didn't matter in the final analysis because the Vikings, it did set up a touchdown drive. And on 3rd and 10, here is a great route by the best receiver in the NFL.
Empty set for Cousins. Looking deep over the middle, and it is, guess who? Justin Jefferson, the clutch play of the day.
I wish he wouldn't do that fake injury thing before he does his gritty. I think that's a little too dramatic for Viking fans and the coaches. But besides, they don't want to think about him injuring his hamstring on a play like that. So big touchdown for Justin Jefferson puts the Vikings up 24-16. 3 minutes left. That defense, it's time to shut them down. But the Giants go on a 75-yard drive, tie the game with a 2-point conversion after Saquon Barkley runs 27 yards for the touchdown. Vikings get it back with 2 minutes to go, and just where they want them in this season. And a couple of big catches, Hockenson, JJ with a couple of big plays on this drive, including this 3rd and 9 reception with 19 seconds to go.
Empty set. Pressure coming. Cousins for Jefferson. Jefferson trying to get free. He ends up with a first down. Now they got to get up and spike it. That catch by Jefferson just set the new single-season Vikings record. And Cousins gets the spike.
Apologies because I played the wrong clip there, but I do want to point out one thing. The entire season, I maybe haven't seen him in a position like that recently because we did see when it was, I want to say, the Colts where they held him down and they couldn't get up to the line and they eventually called threw the flag for that. But every time he gets that first down play, we've seen this with the likes of Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster and JJ does have his I wouldn't say signature point forward, but he does the same thing every time. The urgency to know the situation and just have the knowledge to, all right, no theatrics. Let's get up. Let's get the ball back to the middle. We need to get a spike down here. I'm happy to see that, and because I hadn't gotten a chance to assess that from him the entire season. I know how good he is. I know I agree with you, the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. But that for how young he is, I think just shows how his maturity level has maybe grown over the past couple of years, and how he stands out from the other special young wide receivers out there.
There's no doubt he understands, he's smart, he knows situational football, and they certainly drill it into the players, Kevin O'Connell and his staff. And so, yes, so JJ definitely knew that they did not have a lot of time at that point. Mm-hmm. And it sets up this phenomenal, how else can you describe a franchise record, career high, career longest kick, Greg Joseph, and as Kevin O'Connell said in his post-game press conference, he hammered this ball. From
61. And he has done it again! And the Vikings do it again!
I thought there was no shot. Watching on the couch at home, I was like, we're going to overtime. Yeah, there's no way.
I kind of thought the same thing, and I think Kirk Cousins did too. He said, "I'm just preparing for overtime," and wow, what a boot! That was in a season of amazing finishes, that was right up there. Vikings win it and head to Green Bay at 12-3 now. Let's hear from the coach, Kevin O'Connell, post-game, talking about his Vikings.
Hard-fought victory against a team that we've got a chance to possibly see again here. It's a good football team over there, and we're really proud of our guys for being able to overcome and win. Thought our crowd was tremendous again, as they always are, and that's why it's so important to us to continue to try to secure some of these victories to give ourselves as many opportunities as possible here at US Bank Stadium.
Kevin, how close did you need to get before you decided to kick there at the end for Greg? How close?
Right about that line. Right about that line. I think the big thing right there is just always the threat of, you saw them put Love back there to catch the ball and to block for a long field goal attempt. You got to have a lot of your linemen on the field, so it's that gauge. And I looked over at Greg and could just see he had a great look in his eye, and he absolutely hammered that kick. And just so much credit goes to him. All the preparation he does when no one's watching for moments exactly like that. Really proud of Greg, and I think our whole team, you could kind of feel it in the locker room, just how proud everyone was of him.
And so Greg Joseph, I think, also is setting himself up for a nice new contract next year. He's going to be a free agent. And, yeah, I think he's earned a nice contract extension with the way that he's performed over these last several weeks. If he can keep it going into the postseason, where there are some skeletons in the Vikings closet from kickers, and which I was part of some of those back in the day. Gary Anderson, shall we say. But we're going to think optimistically about Greg Joseph moving forward. Justin Jefferson, another great day, another couple records set, and he now needs 105 yards per game over the last 2 games to set the NFL record of Calvin Johnson of 1,964 receiving yards. Here's JJ postgame.
What does Randy Moss say to you each and every time you break one of his? It's like you're picking him off left and right.
It's very difficult to be in conversation with him, break the records that he have set, and to actually do it, being close last year, it's definitely a God's blessing. But it's more than just me. You know, O-line has been doing a great job. Kirk has been doing a great job giving me the ball. Adam and KJ, even though they don't get as much, much plays as they want, they still have been playing their butt off too. So it's more than just me out there.
And TJ Hockenson, we mentioned, perhaps the trade of the year in the NFL, at least during the season at the trading deadline. What a steal for the Vikings to acquire TJ and not give up a first-round pick. He made the Pro Bowl this year, had a fantastic game. Here's TJ Hockenson postgame.
Can you take us through that second touchdown where you took it off the guy's helmet?
Yeah, I just saw it. Kirk gave me a ball that, I really appreciate him trusting me to be able to make those top shelf catches. Just to see that and then go up, and it was one of those plays where you hear guys talk about slow mo. The ball was just in slow mo, and it was like, all right, here we go. So just I appreciate him putting it up for me and just being able to try to make a play.
And the hero, it seems like there's a different hero every week for these Vikings, even though we know it's always Cousins and Jefferson that are first and foremost. Dalvin Cook in the mix, and certainly Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Hockenson this week. On defense, Patrick Peterson's had some big interceptions this year. Danielle Hunter, as I mentioned, had a big game. Darius Smith, 3 quarterback hits in this game. Seemed to be healthy with that knee coming on. And we know secondary-wise they're going to have to be better down the stretch, and especially come playoff time when they run into some high-powered offenses. But the defense did hold the Giants to 7 points in the first half, did hold them to 3 of 11 on third down, 27%, and forced the 2 turnovers, and that's going to help you win a lot of games. But back to the hero of the end of the game, Greg Joseph.
I knew we were back there. I don't pay attention how far it is. I just see where Ryan's going to put the ball down, and I see my foot through it to kick it.
That's beneficial, right?
Absolutely. It's it's to what he said. I literally try to treat every ball the same, whether it was any one of the PATs, the first field goal, or the second one today.
How many yards do you think was that good for?
I haven't seen it yet. I just know it felt good. I've heard a bunch of different numbers, but I'll hold judgments until I see it.
How did you kicked a lot of long ones, preseason, training camp, first game of the season, and then you missed 5 straight 50-yarders, missed some extra points.
Thank you for bringing that up.
How do you kind of fight your way through that lull?
Just sticking to my process, having the confidence in myself and in my process and knowing what I'm capable of.
Is that odd that he said that he didn't pay attention to the yardage?
Yeah, and he said he kicks every kick the same, whether it's an extra point or whether it's a 61-yard field goal. You would think he might have to have a little more oomph, but then he probably figures, if I do that, I'm going to pull it or I'm going to push it or whatever. So it's probably a smart philosophy. But before we get a little more in depth on the Packers and what's going to happen on Sunday and around the NFL, let's talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. It's time to visit your Select Minnesota GMC dealers and hit the turf in a truck that's designed to tackle the toughest proving grounds. That's the GMC Sierra SLE. It's bold, precise, and capable. Sierra comes standard with a 2.7-liter turbo high-output engine, delivering 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque, or call a winning play with an available 3.0-liter Duramax turbo diesel engine with a 10-speed automatic transmission. And when it comes to comfort and refinement, climb in and discover the convenience of the standard 13.4-inch diagonal center touchscreen. And don't forget, Sierra is truly the MVP with the world's first available 6-function multi-pro tailgate. It's the holidays and a great time to step up to the professional-grade season. Good luck in the playoffs of the Vikings. Test drive a new GMC Sierra SLE today. The year's best selection is available now at your Select Minnesota GMC dealers or online at TwinCitiesBuickGMC.com. So let's get into the border battle. The Packers heading to Lambeau. Here's a little bit of a concerning number as we go there. I mentioned Green Bay has won 15 consecutive games in December. They also have the number 3 pass defense in the NFL. That'll be a challenge for the Vikings offensively, especially in a little bit cooler weather. It's not going to be bitter cold like this weekend. Offensively, we know Aaron Rodgers has had a little bit of a down season from his standards, but he still has 24 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions. Christian Watson, we remember from the very first game of the year, the very first offensive play of the year for the Packers, he dropped that wide open, easy touchdown pass from Rodgers, and it took him probably about 6 weeks to regain Rodgers' trust. But he's come on lately. He's got 9 touchdown passes, or 7 touchdown receptions and 2 touchdown runs over the second half of the season. He's playing really well. David Bakhtiari, their all-pro tackle, missed last week. He's missed several games this season. We'll see if he is able to go in this game. Again, the Packers with a really good running game, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, be a challenge for that Vikings defense. Have to play strong against the rush. They are 19th against the rush, but that pass defense, again, 32nd. And I'm sure Rodgers is going to try to expose them. But again, the takeaways have been a big thing for the Vikings defense this year, with their 23 takeaways ranking 8th in the league, and that's been a kind of a saving grace for the defense.
How do you feel right now about the Packers being 3-point favorites?
I don't think that's surprising at all going into Lambeau in December in the cold weather. And the Packers are hot. They've won 3 straight games. Yep. So not surprising from that standpoint. And again, I think that basically says the game's even, and they give Packers extra points for home field advantage.
Exactly.
Looking quickly around the NFL, the Browns officially eliminated from the playoff race. So we can say year 1 of the Deshaun Watson era a failure in Cleveland, which I'm happy to say. Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, won his 3rd game as a starter. He's also got a save for the 49ers. Doesn't hurt to have the number 1 defense in the league behind you, but he's playing really well for the last pick in the draft. The Cowboys outlast the Eagles without Jalen Hurts. Gardner Minshew passed for 355, but he also threw 2 interceptions and had a lost fumble. And in one of the season's wildest stories, besides the Vikings' 1-score heroics, they're now 11-0 in 1-score games, set an NFL record. The Jaguars took over the AFC South lead from the Titans. Titans have lost 5 straight. Jags have won 3 straight. They play in the season finale for that division title. So as we head into Lambeau, we're going to talk a lot more about that game on Thursday on our Jeff Diamond's Purple Report Thursday night edition, and look forward to that. Really break down the Vikings and the Packers a little bit more and talk about that first meeting this year that the Vikings won 23-7. Should be a great game this weekend. A lot more on the line with the Packers beating Miami on Sunday, while the Vikings won their big game on Saturday, still trying to hang on to that number 2 seed. That's all important. So thanks again for joining us on Jeff Diamond's Monday Purple Report, brought to you today and every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN and available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond with AJ Fredrickson. Have a great week, everybody, and looking forward to the border battle in Lambeau.